Experts at hyperbole love to recite the facts. It covers 13 acres, or the equivalent of 7 square blocks of Midtown Manhattan. It contains well over 2 million blocks of stone, some weighing as much as 15 tons. It stretches 755 feet along each of its 4 sides, and is so close to geometric perfection that the difference between the longest and the shortest sides is only 7 inches. And each side is aligned with one of the true directions of the compass. It rises at an angle of 52 degrees to a height of 481 feet, about the size of a 40-story office building. The Great Pyramid of Giza, an eternal monument to one of the towering figures of history. And yet this is the only complete representation we have of its builder and one-time occupant, an ivory figurine barely 3 inches tall. On the east side of the Great Pyramid are 3 smaller ones, which scholars have concluded were probably the tombs of Khufu's 3 main wives. And just beyond, a virtual planned community of mastabas for other family members and court favorites. The sides of the Great Pyramid now look like giant steps, but they used to be smooth, covered with a casing of polished limestone, like the casing stones on top of the other huge pyramid here at Giza. That one is only slightly smaller than Khufu's, but it's built on higher ground, which makes it appear just as large. We can see quite clearly here at its base how surface rock was neatly chiseled out of the surrounding limestone bed during the leveling process. The stone was then used for core blocks. In fact, all of the inner stones for the pyramids were quarried as close to the worksite as possible. The only exception was the fine limestone used in the casing. It had to be transported from Tura across the river. They're currently restoring the outer casing of the step pyramid at Saqqara with white Tura limestone, which will give us a sense of what a finished pyramid must have looked like. Tura limestone is relatively soft and was easily quarried with the simple tools and techniques the ancient Egyptians had to work with. They chiseled slots into the stone, stuck wooden wedges into them, soaked the wedges with water, then waited for the wedges to swell and break the stone free. Quarrymen also used stone hammers, metal chisels, wooden mallets, copper saws, drills, and finely ground quartz sand. They dragged the stone to the worksite with rope and wooden sledges. It's questionable whether the Egyptian builders ever knew of construction machines more elaborate than the large sledges hauled by gangs of laborers, or the smaller wooden rockers used to move the stones around once they were up here. There is evidence that they tried using animals and other construction aids, but they apparently decided that simple manpower was the best way of all. No pulleys were used to raise the heavy blocks. They were simply dragged up ramps of mud brick and earth. And once they reached the appropriate level, they were levered into place, but not before the masons had cut them with incredible precision. Even the large granite casing stones like these on the 3rd pyramid at Giza fit so tightly together that you can't slip a piece of paper between them. The hauling was done by gangs of conscripted peasants, most of whom probably worked seasonally, a few months stretch after the harvest and during the inundation. But they were not slaves. They were paid with food and clothing. And once their annual work for the state was completed, they returned home to their fields of wheat and barley, either a little worse for wear or in great shape. Take your pick. Of all the debates over pyramid construction, probably the most spirited is the one over the type of ramp system used. Some people believe a single ramp was built from the local quarry to the top of the pyramid. Others maintain that 4 smaller ramps spiraled around the sides of the pyramid, each beginning at one of the 4 corners. And there's yet another theory that seems to combine the previous 2. Though the debate continues, it's encouraging that the issue has settled on ideas about building techniques, rather than on preposterous and demeaning notions of astral visitation and black magic and so on. As it turns out, ancient civilizations did possess the technical skills, the determination, and the imagination to build such structures, and without the help of alien astronauts and supernatural forces.
It was the event we had eagerly awaited for so many years.
The capstone has arrived, Your Majesty.
A magnificent, smoothly carved block of limestone, sheathed in gold.
At the top of the final course, we have chiseled a slot into which the capstone will be secured. As the mud brick ramps are removed, scaffolding is erected so the workers can chisel away the steps of the casing, leaving the entire surface smooth. As they complete their task, others polish it to brilliance.
With that, my father's great pyramid was complete.
And just in time.
The falcon has flown to the sky to become one with the sun god Re. Like his fathers before him, he has become Osiris.
My father was taken to his valley temple for the 70 days of embalming which would prepare him for his life in the hereafter. His internal organs were placed in jars of limestone. His body was prepared with natron, then anointed with myrrh, cedar oil, honey, and olive oil. Incense was burned. When the embalming was completed, he was wrapped in strips of fine linen, upon which his own features were painted to assure that his body could be recognized by his car. The burial chamber was furnished with everything my father's car would need to live there for eternity. From the valley temple, my father's body was taken up the sacred causeway to his pyramid temple. And here his mouth was opened by the high priest, allowing him to partake in the offerings that would keep him alive forever. And here he was awakened to his everlasting life as Osiris. As my brother, Jedefra, became the falcon, Horus, king of this life. At this moment, my mind traveled back to the words my father had said for his father, Sneferu, as the dead king was placed in his pyramid.
Hail to you, ladder of the god. Arise, remove your earth, raise yourself that you may travel in company with spirits, for your wings are those of a falcon. Cross the sky and make your abode among the followers of Osiris, the imperishable stars.
And deep within the pyramid, inside a case of granite, my father's body was placed to rest, to watch over us, over all Egypt, his people, safe and protected for all time to come.